Welcome to Brains and Banter, where academic ambition meets lively conversations. We're your hosts. I'm Tegan.
And I'm Sydney.
Today we'll be meeting with the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Ford.
Join us as we dig into his story and the vision that started it all.
Hey, Dr. Ford, can you tell us a little bit about your academic background and what has led you to your position now?
Sure. As an undergraduate, I majored in philosophy and religious studies. And I went to graduate school and studied the same things. So when I was finishing, I was looking for somewhere where I'd be able to teach lots of things. And that was Rogers State. They had a position in the humanities that involved a lot of the subjects I was interested in. And after I'd been here about 5 years, they started an honors program, and I was lucky enough to be named the director of that. So I've been doing it ever since.
So you mentioned obviously you were the first head of the honors program. Were you
Yeah.
kind of like there from the beginning, or did someone else come up with the idea and you just like jump start it? How did that come about?
So I started working at RSU in 2000. And the very first day that I was here, the president was talking about things they wanted to do someday. And he said, someday they wanted to have an honors program. And I'd been around a lot of honors programs without being in them as an undergrad. And so I went up to afterwards and I was like, hey, whenever that happens, I'd really like to be part of it. And he was like, yeah, sure, kid, whatever. I don't know who you are. Get out of my face. Um, by the time it started, so in 2004, they put together a task force of faculty to kind of plan what it should be like. And at the time, I was in charge of Faculty Senate, which is like the group of faculty that assigns people to do things like that. So I put together the committee that made the report. And so they just put out a call that said, hey, we want somebody to be director, apply here. There were 5 people that applied, and I was just lucky enough that I was chosen for that. And so since the start, I've been in charge of it, and I used some of what that faculty committee had planned, but a lot of it really didn't apply. For instance, there had been a program kind of like this, but not the same 10 years before. It had all its classes on Friday afternoon, and so they were like, "Well, let's keep doing that. We'll have all the classes on Friday afternoon, so they won't." And you can imagine, right?
No one
Like
wants that.
nobody would want to be a part of that. So things like that I didn't really follow. I said, okay, we'll adjust this a little bit. We'll try to schedule around other classes, but not Friday afternoons. Anyway.
What about some of the challenges you faced when you were establishing the program? Like when you got it, when you knew you were going to be the director, what were some of the challenges you initially faced?
Well, one of the big challenges, honors is interdisciplinary, meaning it doesn't come from any discipline, which means there aren't like ready-made classes. So if you're going to teach Comp 1, you can look at Comp 1 other places and figure out what you want to do. If you're going to teach Humanities 1, you can talk to other people who teach Humanities 1. At least when we started this program, I didn't know anybody that I could talk to say, hey, what do you do in honors? And so we were making up everything as we went along. Over time, I've gotten involved with other organizations and gotten to know better what some other honors programs and colleges do. What we do is still pretty unusual, and I'm proud of that. Like what we do is really cool. But so the biggest challenge early on was figuring out what it is we were going to study and how we were going to study it. Recruiting was a big challenge early on. Like we had this new program that nobody had ever heard of, and so we just had to hope people would apply for it. And the first year, we were barely able to get 18 people when we were going for 20. We had a few more than that apply, but like we had 18 that we thought these could be good candidates. But it grew pretty quickly, so that that's not really a challenge anymore. Um, and then figuring out faculty to work with, right? And we've had a pretty stable group of faculty the last few years. Still try to involve new people whenever we can and keep growing it. But that was a big challenge, is figuring out who would teach.
So were there like any mentors? I know you kind of mentioned that it was difficult because this is something that isn't at a lot of other colleges, or it's
Yeah.
but a
you could you
very different. But was there any like mentors or like experiences that you have had, or people you have met that have like guided and shaped your way?
Well, So, I mean, part of what I've over the years I've figured out, I mean, almost every college or university has an honors program of some kind. Um, but they don't have, most of them don't have the kind of interdisciplinary honors seminars that we have. So like our honors versions of general education courses, you could find those things almost anywhere you went. But things like our special topic seminars and our interdisciplinary seminars are a little different. And even if places have those, most places don't operate with a cohort. I mean, the way all the freshmen stay together and all the sophomores stay together and all the juniors stay together. And so that's different. It lets us do some different things. In terms of inspiration, for me, mainly, I get bored really easily. And I figured if students are anything like me, then I want to keep them from getting bored. Because when you're bored, you can't learn anything. You're just thinking about other cool stuff you'd rather do. And so the main inspiration for me was trying to make things as engaging as possible. And that doesn't always work, but like trying to keep people's interest so that they would keep thinking critically and learning things and being involved and wanting to participate. Because it is something extra, right? Like you have your major, you have all your regular courses you have to do. You kind of have to want to go above and beyond that to be successful in honors. And so part of my role is trying to make people want to.
I think you do a very good job of
Well,
that,
thank you.
especially with the
I
special
agree.
topics. Like I love doing the special topics; they're always super interesting and different. Like you said, I think that other colleges should implement that.
Yeah,
If you ever got the chance to be like, "Hey, this works really well for us," you should try this out. I think that it would be
yeah,
And I
thank
think
you.
keeping it to the 24, 25, I think that really helps because,
Mhm.
like a lot of other colleges, they have hundreds of people in their honors program. And it's like, oh, you choose a class and then boom, you're in their honors program. But keeping it, like you said, with our cohorts and year after year doing things with them.
Yeah. I mean, and there's different ways to do it. Like OSU has a great honors college, but it's huge,
good.
right? So you might have class after class and not know any of the same people in your honors classes because there's so many people involved with it. Um, so keeping it small is helpful for that. Of course, part of why we keep it small is because we keep it tied to a scholarship, which again most places don't do anymore. It used to be that honors was tied to a scholarship at most places, and a lot of people decided we want we want students to be learning for the right reasons, and so let's separate scholarships and honors. And like I get that, but it's never seemed to me like it would work well here. Like here, I think to get the group of students we want, you have to have the scholarship connected to it, or they wouldn't be able to do it. So
Struggling to feed yourself but too broke to afford anything else? You're not alone, and that's why we have the Campus Dining Hall, your one-stop shop for mystery meats, overcooked pasta, and food that might technically be edible. With every swipe of your student ID, you can get as much of that cafeteria mystery magic as you can stomach. No questions asked, just lots of questions. Campus Dining Hall is not responsible for any unidentifiable food items consumed, mild indigestion, or existential crises caused by overcooked pasta. Meal plans are mandatory and non-refundable. Side effects may include questionable food choices, a sudden craving for pizza, or an accidental encounter with the mystery meat of the day. Please consult your stomach before eating anything served after 7 p.m. No refunds. All food is provided as is, some assembly required. Not suitable for those with a refined palate, a food allergy, or an advanced sense of taste. Offer void where the dining hall actually serves edible food.
Switching gears,
yeah.
in a joint seminar, we talked a lot about goals for the honors program. You
Mm-hmm.
gave us that list. How did you decide on those goals, like what we were going to talk about, and the things that we have talked about, and trying to do like more activities?
So that's a good question. It's complicated. So officially, um, there are a few official goals, learning outcomes for honors that have been consistent for a number of years, and I work with those. I developed those together with there's an honors committee of faculty, so it was sort of jointly agreed to by that and by the people teaching the other honors seminars. Um, the goals that we worked on in joint seminar, that's been something that we've worked on a couple times over the last 10 years. Me trying to get like a fuller list of goals than we have now. And I started out just by looking at all different honors programs and colleges and saying, okay, what are some cool things that people are trying to do out there that I think might work here? I I picked maybe 8 or 10 of those, and then working with students tried to narrow it down. And so that exercise that we did is one that we've done a couple times to try to say, okay, what do the students think is most important? What was interesting about that is like what this year's group said was most important and what we did well and what we needed to work on was very different from what a few years ago said. That whole process kind of got stopped by the talking about when we paused for COVID and we sort of stopped doing everything we were doing. And it was like, okay, we were close to kind of agreeing on some new goals, and then we quit working on it. So it's sort of restarting that.
So you said they're different. How are they different? If you're wanting to restart those.
Well, the main thing that struck me is a few years ago, everybody was like, the most important thing we need to do was to develop kind of studying other cultures and learning about other cultures and ideas. That was still important to this group, but it didn't seem like quite as, I don't know how to exactly to describe it. What we need to do more of, I think I've gotten a different vision of from students lately than from a few years ago, I guess is how I would say it.
Because we focused on more extracurricular activities,
Yeah.
I think, instead of cultural.
Like
Which,
involvement.
like, yeah.
Yeah,
more,
exactly.
More involvement. Because we do a lot of activities, but I don't think we do it enough to where we know everyone. Like, I don't know hardly any of the freshmen.
Yeah.
And so just having more activities that we get that deeper, more personal connection, I think is what most of the people are doing.
Well, and I do think, I mean, one of the cool things, I mean, that we even have that joint seminar, right? I mean, it's something I've never run into anybody else like that does that. We're really lucky that we can have 3 classes and put them at the same time and make everybody work together that way. And part of the reason we started to doing it is just what you said, is that otherwise you don't meet the people in other classes. And even that helps, but doesn't necessarily go as far as we could. Yeah.
So kind of on goals. Do you have any like future goals or like ideas or things you want to do with the honors program?
Yes, lots. Um,
Top 3.
well, I mean, there's short term and there's long term. Like short term, I'm really excited about the class we just added to the spring schedule on creativity. And I don't know if either of you are planning to take that,
I'm
but
not creative.
it's gonna be really cool. But that's the thing is that like first to think about all the different ways that people are creative, even when they don't think they are. But also, and this is a whole nother story, but I was at this conference a couple weeks ago, and not for the first time, they had some improv sessions and like how you could use improv techniques in classes, and I just had a blast and I loved it. And we've had an honors improv night a couple times that's been really fun. But I wanted to like use that in a class, and that's part of what we're going to do in the creativity class is do some improvisational scenes and write poetry and songs and stories and paint, draw, whatever it is people do, cook, create in various ways. Anyway, I think that'll be really cool. It's a different kind of class than we've ever done. So I think that'll be a neat experience. So that's like an immediate goal. Long term, you guys know, we've had these studies at large programs. We're winding those down, if not ending them. And so long term, one of the things that we have to figure out as an honors program is if we're not doing that, what are we doing instead? What's taking the place of that? So that's a big challenge. And then hopefully super long term, but hopefully the program's strong enough and we build it so that, someday when somebody else is running it, they're still able to continue and do cool things. And so, I hope that's super long term. That was weird.
We're gonna need a Dr.
And now I'd like to announce my retirement.
Surprise!
Bye. You'll never see me. Wouldn't that be wild? And he never was seen again. No, nothing like
I
that.
feel honored though that you chose our podcast.
Your podcast,
to
exactly,
announce
to
this on
break the news. Yeah.
So speaking of the studies at large program,
Yeah.
I won't ask any questions that would get you in trouble.
No, it's cool.
So, what caused you to leave the first one? What piqued your interest?
So, in the early 2000s, RSU did a program together with TU, the University of Tulsa, where they studied painting in Italy, and that was professors from both schools. And that was in the 90s. They did that, and it was it stopped with September 11th. Like there was no longer travel; they couldn't do anything. When RSU was looking to resume that, TU was like, "That's okay, you guys go ahead." And so RSU did a fine arts course in Italy, and they had three professors, and two of them were art professors, and then me, who was kind of philosophy humanities guy, who did some other cool things. And I was like, "This is great. I love it. I'm going to go back with these people every year." And the next year, they were like, "We've got enough faculty. Thanks," you know.
They
And
kicked you
so,
off.
What?
yeah, I wouldn't, not like I failed or something, but just they had other people who wanted to do it. They had more people that wanted to do it than could, and one of the honors freshmen was like, "We should do an honors trip and just do it us." And I said, "I guess that sounds cool. Let's see what we could do." The first one, we only had 5 people. It was 5 students and me, and it was 4 honor students and one just regular student who wanted to go. And we went to England for 2 weeks. We stayed in London the whole time, but took lots of day trips to other places. And it was really cool, and people had a great experience, and we learned a lot. And so we were like, okay, well, we'll do it again next year. The next year we had like 18, and we were a week in London and a week in Paris. And again, people loved it, and so it just became this thing that we would do every year, and now we've done many times. So yeah, it was really just because students really wanted to do it, and I was like, "It sounds like a great idea. Let's try it." Still want to do it, and this is one of those things. It's a really cool experience. You guys know it's exhausting. Like it's
Also
your
for
whole
us, it
life for
must be
2 weeks.
extremely exhausting for you. You were up like hours before we were every single
Yeah,
day, running all around.
and just like all the paperwork and all the bureaucracy, especially afterwards, gets kind of exhausting. So yeah, so it's not something I want to do. I never thought we would do it as many times as we have. Like those first couple, I thought we'll do this a couple times and then that'll be it. I mean, I counted the other day, I think 18 times that we've done. So there's been a lot of and lots of different places. Um, Last year was great. You guys know last year was a great experience, and so if last year was the last one, then that's great. If we end up having one more, which is at least what we're talking about right now, I think that would be good. It would be wonderful if there are other young faculty who want to take this up and lead these in the future. But I don't know that anybody. I mean, there's a lot involved. So
It wouldn't be the same without you, though.
well, thanks.
It can't be the
I
studies at large
appreciate it.
program without Dr. Ford.
I appreciate it. I do really enjoy traveling, and so I love new places and seeing new places. I love hanging out with students, and so it's always a great experience for those couple weeks. So I mean, someday when it's gone, I'll be sad that it's gone. But you can't do everything forever, right?
You have 18
Yeah, exactly. That's
experiences,
a
trips
good
to look
number.
back on.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
So what has been one of your favorite memories, like from a studies at large trip?
Well, I mean, you tend to think mainly about the ones lately, right? So I've got last year's, um, Paris and Spain on the brain. The Eiffel Tower night was amazing. That dinner and hanging out in town afterwards was really great. I got to see Taylor Swift. That was pretty cool. Um, uh, I had fun. Boating around in the park in Madrid, and you guys.
I mean, relaxing.
Exactly.
With your feet in the water.
I was chilling, and you guys were doing all the work. Yeah, no, it's so that was a great trip. I love Italy, and we've been to Italy, I don't know, like, I mean, again, how weird is that to say, oh, I've been to Italy 5 times, but I mean, it's so I really appreciate it. That's one of my favorite places. Um, yeah, I love them all. So there's lots of great memories.
What about broader? What if we did the entire honors program? What is your favorite memory?
Favorite memory from the entire honors program? Wow, I don't know if I
Big
could
question.
even think in those terms. Um, I don't know. What's your favorite?
Obviously, studies at large.
Yeah,
Yeah, that I would definitely have to say.
I really enjoy
Favorite memory.
intercession too.
I really enjoy intercession. A couple of the intercessions lately I really loved. I thought the happiness intercession was really meaningful for me because it's both. We did lots of good academic work, but it's also thinking about how your own life can be better, which is something that each of us, needs to do and wants to do. So that was really cool. Um, I'm excited about the intercession coming up. I think that's going to be really cool. Again, it's trying something new that we haven't really done before, sort of two related classes meeting at the same time, which I think will be really cool. Um, yeah, I don't know if I could think of one experience with everybody. That part of what like studies at large, it's so intense. It's so like intensive experience for 2 weeks that everything feels more when you're doing it. And so it's hard for regular life to compete with that.
I thought I was in a dream for probably the first 5 days.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
were in
yeah. The place was a little small, but
Well, it got a little stinky towards
yeah,
the end. To be honest with you, it smelled like 30 feet.
yeah.
It's okay.
France. It was raining.
It was
We were
I was not
raining.
rain.
expecting that.
We, yeah. That the walking back, people were walking back barefoot in the rain was
Yeah, that was Sydney
pushing
and I.
it.
Count one, guilty. Count two, guilty.
Yeah, I know. So that's why I was bringing it up. Like,
It
and
was
it,
at our feet.
and again, that's where like we're really lucky that nobody was seriously injured.
I was a little scared taking my heels off. But
I was
like,
too. I
I'm
think
done.
I would have been even more injured because like we were wearing heels,
Yeah, you
and
can't do that
so
for hours.
especially
walking
when
that
your feet are
far.
wet, like I was like sliding in and out of my shoes.
Oh yeah, I hadn't even thought
And
of
so
it that
that's why I
way.
took them off because I was gonna have blisters everywhere, and I
Yeah.
already did get blisters by the end of the trip. But
So, and I tried, and you can tell me how well we did. We tried to walk less this time because, like, you walk so much, and I don't want it to be like death march, right? It should be enjoyable. But you do a lot of walking when you're
I
in
feel
Europe.
like
For at least France, it was a death march. But then we
Yeah,
calmed down.
it's also just a lot
we were a
more
little
than we're
better in
used to.
Spain.
Yes,
Like
Yeah.
we don't walk a bunch. They walk a bunch there. So
Yeah,
they're used to it, but I'm used to getting in my car and driving down the road to go to QT or something. Even though I could probably walk there.
yeah.
an hour. It's like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's just not designed for like a couple times last year I walked down to Green Eyes for lunch instead of driving there, which is great and you feel good about yourself, but it does take you an hour
Yeah.
and it's like our schedules aren't set up to be able to walk to things instead of driving.
It's a lot more spread out here.
Tegan, favorite honors memory?
I mean, I'd have to say studies at large.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love traveling, and so traveling, with my friends, and then learning about the cultures.
Yeah. That's why I always feel a little sad for people who don't get to do that. And even when we've been doing lots of these trips, there's still been people who aren't able to. So you just have a different kind of experience, I guess.
Sydney and I will lead.
Okay.
Next
Okay.
summer,
Cool.
come with us.
Going.
Greece.
You joke about that, but like one of the things that's been really cool is the number of students who, after they graduate, keep taking trips like that, where they go someplace for a couple weeks and go to a few cities, like we do at the Studies at Large. And I even last fall I met with there were these 4 girls that had graduated from the program who were going with their husbands to Germany, and they were like they wanted to plan it just like we would plan our trip, and they did, and they had a blast. And I mean, that's just amazing to me that not just that we're enjoying these things while we happen, but people keep doing them afterwards. This is really cool.
What has been like the most rewarding part of creating and like owning the honors
So I really love some of the things we've done in classes, and we've talked about some of them with the special topics in particular. Um, I love the senior seminar. You guys haven't had that yet, obviously, but I think what I do in that works really well. And it's sort of like we're preparing for 3.5 years to get ready for that, so that's nice. Um, Obviously, the studies at large have been great experiences, so I'm really proud of that. Um, the number of people who are have gotten married out of the program or had kids with people in the program, like that's really rewarding. That there's people's who their whole lives are kind of you know drawing from this in some way that's cool. And I'm still, I mean, like my friends now mostly are people who are honors graduates, right? Which, other faculty look at me weird when I say that. But I mean, like the people that Dr. Gray and I hang out with tend to be people who graduated from the program because it's been math and head. It's been 19 years now. So 15 years of graduates. And so people in their 30s getting close to 40 that went through the honors program. So
That's crazy.
isn't that wild?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't even born yet.
See, this is
Sydney, don't say that.
no, but this kind of killed me when I was talking to like this year's freshmen and last year's freshmen. Like we started honors before they existed, That's really, it was already bad enough that
Oh, baby.
I started at RSU in 2000, so like before some of you. But now it's like honors is older than you too, so weird.
But it's like still crazy to think about the fact that the honors program is new. Like it's still
Comparatively, it's still new.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you go to other places and they've had something for long periods of time, and what we do is still kind of different because it's new, and I think that's in a way that's really cool.
I mean,
Go for it.
I was just gonna say, like, in creating the program, it wasn't just a program. Like, I feel like you were saying, it's relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've gained some of my best friends through the program, and like, you just gain all these relationships, and so it's not just learning; it's meeting people and friends, or being able to connect with people. I feel like in that way,
Yeah.
I've definitely grown a lot in the program, not
Mhm.
just like intellectually, but also like speaking and being able to do
Emotionally,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, and emotionally. So I mean, Sydney and I now have random, deep, long conversations, sometimes stemming from like what we've talked about in classes. We'll just like go back to our apartment and we'll sit and we'll just talk, and we're like, we wouldn't have done this 3 years ago. But
That's awesome.
And it's definitely like because I'm very introverted, and I know coming into this program, I was very shy. I did not want to talk to people. And freshman year, I really didn't talk to that many people, which that's one of my biggest regrets coming into this program. But learning from that and growing through the program, it's like, look where I am now.
Yeah.
Podcast.
Yeah.
How would you define success for the program?
For the program and its students. Well, I guess for me at least, that's not an overall thing. It's a year-to-year thing. So each class is different. What people do in each class is different. And at least the way I see my role, I'm trying to get the most I can out of each group, like each year. And so the good part about that is like success is what we can achieve in one particular year. The bad part about that is I don't think there's any kind of like accumulation. Like we did this 10 years ago, and so now we're this much further or something. You're sort of starting fresh with each group. For the individual students, it's about just the kinds of things you guys were just talking about. Like, are you able to think more deeply about what's important to you? Are you making the most of your life? Are you in a position to be successful in whatever it is you want to do? whether that's graduate school. So many honors graduates end up doing graduate school, and that's great. Whether it's in a particular job, but more than what you do for a living, it's like how you live and whether you're able to um, appreciate and make the most out of your life after honors. So hopefully people have a good experience for 4 years. Hopefully they stay in the program and complete the program. There's always one or two people who don't, and that's sad. But most of all, it's achieving as much as we can with people in those particular years. Maybe I should be thinking more about like what the program's leading to or building up to or something like that. But I don't usually think in those terms. I'm usually really focused on what we need to do today and what we need to do this semester and what we're going to accomplish this year. And then a whole group of wonderful people will graduate and leave. And hopefully a new group of wonderful people will come in.
I mean,
Good.
I don't think it has to be like leading up to something.
Yeah.
Like you said, year to year type thing.
Yeah.
So you do so much for this program and the university in general. What would you say keeps you motivated?
Well, thank you. First, that was a nice thing to say. What keeps me motivated is mainly the students in the program. And again, like when I said every class is different, I mean that's in so many ways. Like some classes I'm really close to, and not very often, but it does happen. Sometimes there's groups of people that I'm not that connected to. But so what motivates me is the individual people each year that are doing really cool things and hopefully leading me to teach new things and learn new things and experience it together. So that was a weird, vague, roundabout answer. But, so I don't know if you guys have seen this yet because you're juniors. Maybe you have. But so my year has this like arc where I'm really excited as it goes. And then we get closer to graduation and I start to get sadder and sadder that people are going to graduate and leave. Um, uh, but the good side of that is like I'm really motivated to make the most of every day that I have in class with you guys while you're still juniors, and every day that I have in class with the seniors before they graduate. And that really keeps me from taking it for granted and just kind of blowing off this week or this month or this semester because no matter what I do, like after 4 years, you guys are going to leave me. Like I got to make the most of this time that we have together, right? It's true. And also, like not to be morbid, but you never know how many years of doing this you have. Anyway, it was going in a weird direction. Like you guys know, I was involved with the PLC, and I just sort of took for granted that I'd be working with both of those programs forever. And then that suddenly changed, and it made me realize that I need to be aware that like that could change at any time for honors, whether a bus hits me or
What did he say?
Or someone knock
a new president decides they want somebody else to be the honors person or whatever happens. Like I don't think any of those things are likely. I hope they're not. But so you want to appreciate every second that you have because just in case. So
if they did, we'd leave in solidarity.
good. We will all leave
Everyone.
together.
I'll make everyone.
We'd still like the scholarships. However.
True. Well, maybe if we all leave, then they'll just bring you back.
Yeah, there you go.
Just,
there you go. Nice, thank you. People are just gonna like watch the highlights of this and fast forward, and they're gonna come away. Dr. Ford's not honors anymore, and they're leaving in protest.
Join us, sign our paper. Well, we appreciate your time.
Thanks for talking to me. This was really cool and interesting.
Talking with us.
Thanks. Bye.